Hi, everyone. This is Jay Rosenzweig, the founder and CEO of BirthParentFinder.com. And today I have on with me AnneMarie Battis. Hi, Anne. How are you?
Hi,
You go by Anne or AnneMarie?
AnneMarie.
AnneMarie. Okay, got it. So you've been following us on social media for years now, haven't you?
I have.
And you reminded me that in 2011, you found Birth Parent Finder and me on Facebook, and you
I
reached
did.
out and you were looking for your birth parents. And I apparently did some searches for you and I even called your birth mother and put you in contact with her right away. And you had to remind me of that because honestly, I didn't remember that at all.
It
So,
was it was a crazy time, and it was fast and furious. And at the time, you were, I mean, very generous, but we're like, oh, well, here, we'll just, oh, it'll just take me a minute. It's. And meanwhile, in those very few minutes, you totally changed the trajectory of my life as well as my whole family. So it wasn't just anything.
and how long had you been looking for your birth family?
Um, in my heart, my whole life. But in reality, it had been probably about a year or so. Not kind of, I guess, probably maybe like other adoptees where you're kind of tippy toeing around. And I put my name in the New York registry that I would be open in case they came to find me. And some little things, but I was very scared. And also the fact that I knew the circumstances of my adoption, as far as what I was told, that they were young teenagers. And I didn't want to interrupt their life. I didn't, I figured they went on to, you know, later and greater things. So I didn't want to interrupt anybody's life, but I was open to if they reached out to me. But then I went through a health crisis of my own, and the medical doctor was insistent that I tried to find them because there were genetic links of what I was dealing with. And so then I had to kind of put some pedal to the metal, so to speak.
And that's a valid reason to find your birth parents
It
because you
was.
weren't provided with any non identifying or medical history information, were you?
I'm sorry.
You weren't provided with any non identifying information or medical information.
No, and come to find out that after I've met, because I've met both of my birth parents, the all of the information on my secondary uh, what do you call it, birth certificate is incorrect. All of the information, like it's not the same, it's the wrong hospital, it's the wrong date, it's the wrong, everything is wrong on there.
Well, so let's go back to when I found your birth mother. So, what information did you provide me with?
I was probably one of the very few really I had a lot of documentation, and I know that most adoptees don't have that. I had my original adoption papers, and it had my original last name on it, and it had like a court docket number and such, where I was adopted through, as well as the attorneys. And I had gone so far to look up the attorneys to see if I could find them and if they had any records, and the firm no longer existed. And, so I kind of did what I thought I could do. And that's why I had reached out to your place.
So, did it provide you with a name for your birth mother?
No, there was no name for her. It had my original name on it, which was, yeah, they kept the same first name, and then I just had my birth mother's last name. And they just switched last names. So that was the only identifier as far as names are concerned.
So, how do you recall how did I find her?
You said at the time, because we're talking, 2011. It's been a minute. Um, you had said that you had put her last name into a database or something that you had, and it came up with 10 different variables of people that it could be or could be related to her. Luckily for me, it's a somewhat unusual name. It's not a very common name. And so it apparently gave you 10 different people that it could be. And you tried the first one on the list, which turned out to be my uncle. And he was like, oh my gosh, I think I remember that, because she was very young. She was only 15 when she had me.
Wow.
And yeah, and he was about 12, I think. And so, I mean, you got to do the math. It was a long
So the
time
uncle
ago.
remembered this.
I know it was a long time ago. And he's like, I think something happened around that time. And he was a 12-year-old boy. He was in his own stuff and whatever. And because they had kind of shipped her off somewhere to be pregnant with me, so she wasn't really even around during that time. And so he immediately got off the phone with you and called her and said, hey, like, what's going on here? And she's like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And by that time, you had called her, and you guys had, I guess, talked, and um, you then reached back out to me on Facebook Messenger and said, I found her. Here is her Facebook link. Here's her telephone number. And she's super anxious to talk to you.
Wow. And 15 years old, that's usually not the case.
Yeah.
You get a lot of cases with women, birth mothers that young, who put it out of their mind. It was a bad time. They don't want to remember that, and they don't want any part of it. And they usually do help me out with medical history. And sometimes they won't even tell me who the birth father is. But you were very fortunate that she
I
was
was
receptive.
if I could even tell you just, and I know you kind of put off the whole, oh, it just took me a couple of minutes. And that couple of minutes, I could cry just even now, just talking about it. Absolutely changed my life 1,000%. Changed my mama's life, changed my whole family has been changed for the better because of that 5 or 10 minutes it took you to find them. It was extraordinary.
Well, it was my pleasure to help you get this done super quickly. And that was a long time ago. That was before we had employees.
I know you were probably just about starting out, and you, like I said, you just like, oh, I'm just sitting here on a Friday afternoon looking to see if I can help somebody. And you have, and as a Christian, I don't think anything happens by accident. And you were like, oh, I was just looking through some people's stories on my Facebook page, and I happened to come across yours. Now, what was the chances of that happening when I put my little post on your page, on your Facebook page, and there were thousands of people on there and thousands of posts, and it was a month later, and you just happened to see it.
Something caught my eye, and I went to work, and it was,
You
you
did.
leave it to fate, it's one of those things. And I'm trying to think that your birth mother definitely confirmed with the non-ID or whatever information you had that she is definitely your birth mother, correct?
Yes, sir, she did.
And do you look like her?
I don't think I look as much like her as one of my sisters. One of my sisters and I both have the red hair, both there's a lot of very similar features. And when I step back, and my husband thinks I look way more like my brother than I do anybody else. But on that side of my family, I have 3 sisters and a brother. And you look at all 5 of us together, and you would never know that we had different fathers at all.
So you didn't take a DNA test?
We didn't. It was never asked of me to do it. And I mean, she was immediate. She's like, yes, I know you're mine. I absolutely know you're mine.
And the date of birth
My date of birth
matches the date that she gave birth, obviously.
Actually, and this is what I believe as a doctor myself, she was very traumatized at the time. And so she can't pinpoint the exact date. She knew it was around Labor Day, which my birth certificate says I was born September 1st. When I met my birth father, he seems to think it was September 18th because that's when he shipped off for Vietnam. So I just celebrate my birthday all month.
But your birth father, we'll get into that in a minute, but he confirmed that this was the right woman, correct?
Yes.
Okay, then you probably don't have to take a DNA test.
Yeah.
And also, back in 2011, the New York records weren't open to get your original birth certificate.
No, and they're open now, so that'll be one of the things on my wish list to do.
Right. And by the way, sometimes birth mothers don't put their real name down.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, we have that
And
honestly, probably 2 or 3 out of 10 times we don't get an actual exact name for the birth mother.
well, I was blessed all the way around because without that information, you probably wouldn't have been able to find her. Or maybe it would have been a whole lot harder, wouldn't have been one of those little 5 or 10 minute things for
So
you.
knowing how I work, how I figured out who she was, what I probably did was I went to the ancestry.com database. I put in her last name, which you said wasn't common, and I put
Mhm.
in female because it gives you a box to check off male or female. And I put in a year that she might have been born, an age range, and then I put in New York. And it, like you said I had 10 possibilities, and then I go to another database to get addresses and phone numbers, and that's probably how I've reached out to your birth mother.
That's probably how it sounds like it's very viable. Like I said, you said it took me 5, 10 minutes. I'm not worried about it. And it absolutely was life changing for me. So I will forever be grateful. And I
Oh, and
know my
thank
mama
you.
is too.
So you mean your adopted mother?
No, my mom, my birth mom.
Well, what about your adopted mother?
I call her mama.
Oh, got it. Now, what about your adopted mother? Was she part of this, or did she pass?
um, she has passed away, but she was still alive when I found everybody. And I know that she was kind of tender about it because she couldn't have children. And so I kind of kept a lot of it away from her because I didn't want to feel like, it was like all in her face over it or anything else like that, because she did feel a little bit slighted and threatened by it. So I spent more time with her and tried to kind of reassure her that, I wasn't leaving her now that I found all these, other wonderful people. And, my heart is big enough for everybody.
And it's interesting. A lot of times that adoptees will wait until their adopted parents pass away before
Mhm.
searching for their birth family, just out of respect. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because I do get that question from birth mothers that I find. They ask me, why did this person wait so long? And I tell them because they wanted to wait until their
Yeah.
adopted parents passed. And that doesn't happen all the time, but it happens. It happens often.
I thought about that, and I think, when I look back at some parts of my life, like I would have rather have done it in my 30s because I became a mom, and then it really just kind of hit me. Not that I didn't realize or appreciate before that, but then it really hit me as a mom. Oh my gosh, look what my mom did. Like she did something I could have never ever done. And she didn't have choices. She didn't, back in 1964, there were no choices for a young girl like her. And she didn't have a choice. She had to give me up. And um and then I got confirmation of all of that. So the story that I was told was actually true. Um and I wanted to wait until, I was settled in my life that I could show her, thank you. Look, I turned out okay. And thank you, for bringing me in this world and, feel like I had something to be proud of and whatever. But my 30s were kind of a little crazy. And I didn't, when you open up that can of worms, you have to be prepared to deal with it, whether it's good, bad, ugly, whatever. And I wasn't in a really good place in my life in my 30s. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to open up this can of worms now. I can barely keep going with what I'm doing. And so it just ended up when I got sick is when I really just didn't have a choice. I had to.
And the timing worked out really well. So you met your birth mother how long after I found her?
You found her on July the 8th of 2011. And so I talked to her that very same day. We talked incessantly like schoolgirls for the next month. But my birth date on my certificate says September 1st. And so she thought it'd be really cool if she could fly out September 1st for my birthday. So I met my mom for the second
Mhm.
time on my 47th birthday.
And how far do you live from her?
Um, 2,053 miles.
So she lives back in New York?
No, she's actually in Wisconsin now.
Wow.
Yeah, she and her parents about 4 or 5 years after me, about 4 or 5 years afterward, they migrated west and they went to Wisconsin. And my adopted family moved down to the Maryland area when I was like in first grade. So I've been out of New York for quite some time myself.
And you went to meet her and you met your siblings?
I did. When she came to visit us for the first time in September, she stayed for well, about 4 or 5 days, I guess. And like I said, up all night, schoolgirl. She just wanted to do life with me, see how my life was and stuff. And then she gifted me and my family tickets to go up to Wisconsin for Thanksgiving holiday weekend, because that's when they celebrate all together.
Mm.
And they had a welcome home party for me. And
Wow.
so all of the cousins and aunts and uncles, and I mean, they came from as far as Georgia, but like all over, came that holiday weekend to meet me and my family, my husband and son, and to re-welcome me back into the family. And it's really weird when I try to tell people, and especially people who are not adopted, they don't understand. Because before I met them, I always felt a missing piece, but I didn't feel a missing piece, if that makes any sense. Like I didn't feel like there was anything wrong in my world.
Mm.
I have a wonderful family, my husband and sons and everybody, I'm very blessed. But the minute that I heard my mother's voice, it was like my body just took a deep breath, and then everything was right in my world. And it's like I've known them my whole life, but I just met them.
And how many siblings do you have now?
I'm out of everybody, a total of, there's 8 of us. So it started with me. I'm the oldest of 8. And on my mom's side, I have 4 siblings there. I have a sister that I was adopted with. She's also adopted.
Mhm.
And then on my birth father's side, I have a brother and sister.
And we'll get to that in a minute. But this was in 2011 and now it's 2023. How often do you see them or contact them?
Oh, the first couple of years it was crazy. I was going up to Wisconsin probably 3, 4 times a year at least, and spending a week or so at a time because I had the availability to do that, and just to try to get to know all of them, and really kind of solidify what I could with the long distance involved. And so it was a little bit harder. Nowadays, now that I am working and things like that, it's a little bit harder, but at least once a year. And we FaceTime all the time and Facebook talk and, all the stuff. We have a family thread. So it's probably like any other family. It's just I've arrived back on the scene, and we don't use the words half sister or
Mm.
anything like that. It's, my one sister, excuse me, my one sister would leave me these beautiful messages on my phone, and tell me she loved me before she even had met me in person.
And obviously, you're the oldest one.
And I'm the oldest one. And so, yep, I have been so, so blessed by meeting all of them. It's just been amazing.
And this doesn't happen often.
I know. And that's why I wanted to be able to tell other people, just because I pray that they have even just a smidgen of success and relationship, because that's what I did it for. I wanted to find them, to thank them, to have relationship, and that was my only intention. And so if anybody else sees this and wonders, should I open that box, be prepared for anything that comes out, and you might just get really, really blessed like I did. I would have never in my wildest dreams thought that I would have such an awesome family, but I do.
And your birth mother did tell you who your birth father is. Is that correct?
She did. She told me I think it was like the second phone call, because the first phone call was like really kind of, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is happening kind of phone call. And then it was the second phone call, and she said, I bet you're wondering. And I honestly, I said, you know what? I really haven't thought about him over the years. You were the one that I thought about. And because I was, told that, he kind of took off. And again, he was 17. What did he know? And so I really didn't really think of him. And I said, well, yeah, I said, now that I opened up this can of worms, if you've got any information, that'd be pretty cool. And she said that she had an email address for him. She didn't know if it would work, or anything. She got it at the last school reunion or something like that. And excuse me, she reached out to him and he answered. And there it was. I got connected.
Again, it doesn't usually happen that way.
I know. I know. This is the Cinderella story, or the happy fairy tale ending that I know does not happen for others. My younger sister went to try to find her birth family, and she was able to, on her own many years ago, only because there was just one person left, and the adoption was done by an attorney who that was the only adoption they did. And so they knew, how to get her connected. And she didn't have any siblings. She didn't, her parents were way older. And it was a nice reunion, but it wasn't what I have. So she, was kind of jealous of that. And so we just kind of bring her in the fold.
And that's a good family.
I do. I am so blessed.
And obviously, you have a child, you have a
Mhm.
husband, you live, you said 2,000 miles away from them, but they're a part of your everyday life, it seems.
Yeah, yeah. My mother, she in the winter, well, right now she's about 2,000 miles away. She's in Arizona. She has a second home in Arizona, so they try to stay out of snow. And so yeah, I mean, it's a daily, almost daily contact with them, either through text or FaceTime or something. And now that I'm a grandma, she's a great grandma, and she's like, well, I'm too young to be a great grandma. I'm a Gma. So we have little Gma over here is coming for Mother's Day. So this will, I think, be my second Mother's Day that I actually get to see her in person on Mother's Day. And she gets to meet her great granddaughter. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's cool. It's amazing. It's wonderful. But what I got to ask you is, did she keep this a secret, or did she tell anyone, her husband, her kids, about giving birth at 15?
Everybody knew. Everybody knew. Now, a couple of my siblings remembered that they knew, but they, like over the years, it wasn't right on their mind because, somebody wasn't right there. But everybody knew, and I think that's what helped the transition of AnneMarie's not here, and wow, now AnneMarie's home and she's here with the family, and now everything is complete. Because, and for a while there, my mother had looked for me. But again, as a young kid, especially back then, she wasn't she wasn't going to get very far. And she said she had called around to try to find someone with the last name that she thought I had. Um, and she said, I just had to pray that God would protect you and that one day I would get you back. And I have to tell you, sometimes I could kick myself for not pursuing finding them earlier, because the gift that I have, I feel like, half the time I feel like, dang, I missed the boat every which way. But I have to just trust that everything's in God's timing and it is what it is. But at least now I do have them and I get to enjoy them for the rest of my days.
And all your questions have been answered. All the mystery has been solved. You found your birth family, both sides. You have a relationship with your birth mother's side. We won't get into your birth father's side because I know you met him and there's no relationship there. And are you okay with all of that?
I'm okay with it. Yeah, I'm okay. I think, um, things like secondary rejection sometimes are um, difficult to process, but I think it was better because I initiated that, only because of some behaviors that he had, that he was not very kind to me. And I think I just represented a time that he would probably not want to relive or think about.
And a lot of times, birth fathers, especially someone who was 17 at the time,
Mhm.
they don't even get back to us.
Yeah. Well,
And
yeah, initially he was, I think the curiosity was there, and he was kind on the first visit and maybe the second, but then after that, it almost felt like I was the little doggy in the window looking, begging for scraps, for things, for attention, for, hey, look, would you like to come over? Would you like to do this? Would you, and after a while, it was very apparent that he just couldn't handle it.
yeah, you don't need that in your life.
Nope.
You have a wonderful side on the maternal side, and
Mhm.
they love you, they appreciate you, and I'm not speaking for you, but that's what you need, right?
Mhm. I have everything that I need, and it's sad, it is very sad because again, I went into all of this for relationship to, to give them peace. Um, I'm a naturopathic doctor, and so I understand the way cells work, the way emotions work, and how they affect the body, and all those kinds of things. And so I wanted to give both of them peace to know that they made a good decision, that I know that I recognize their pain, that I recognize the hurt and all the things that they must have gone through, whether they buried it, or what have you. But I wanted to say thank you. I wanted, I had good parents that raised me. We'd never had a want for anything physically. Best case scenario. When I read and I hear other adoptees, my heart just breaks when I see some of the stories that they've gone through. So I know how blessed I am, and I don't take that for granted. But I just wanted to give them peace, and if there was relationship there, that would be great.
Excellent. And in my opinion, I do believe it worked out well for you, and
Mhm.
I do appreciate you reaching back out to me after all these years and reminding me of the story,
Mhm.
which I'm grateful. I really am, and I know you say that to me, but it works both ways. And thank you for doing this.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, if I could have any kind of impact with other adoptees that are out there that are, questioning, should I do it? Should I, whatever. I can't answer that for them. All I could do is say, well, this is what's happened for me. And hopefully, I pray that you're just as pleasantly surprised, and, to use your services, to use Birth Parent Finder, because I find that it was, not a mistake. It's all in the design. And you guys, you were amazing that one day. And I think my mom had followed up with you a couple times afterward, and excuse me, tried to, thank you, like she could not thank you enough. And that's from the heart of a mother. That's the heart of someone who, you know, I know you're a man. Sometimes men don't understand this kind of thing, but her heart as a mama was very, very grateful.
Well, I do understand because this is my business.
Hmm.
This is what I try to do.
Well, it's a wonderful business. And if I can help support you in any way, that's why I was willing to do it.
I appreciate it. And on that note, I want to wish you a beautiful day. And thanks again for doing this. And we'll talk soon.
Thanks. Absolutely. You too.